Okay, so I'm just making this quick little video to go over the kind of combat styles of the three melee force classes. I'm just going to do the Imperial ones. The other ones are mirrored on the Republic side. Animations are slightly different. I like the Republic animations slightly better, but that's how it goes. Here's Assassin. Assassin is primarily going to be a tank. This is a tanking tree. This is a bursty DPS tree. It's not that great. This is a dot spec DPS tree. I kind of like it. It's pretty good. Some people don't like it. I like it. I'll just show you this one. It's the one that's most important, most likely to be used as an assassin or a shadow. You have stealth, of course, so you can sneak around in stealth. It's not like a rogue and WoW necessarily where it is necessary to use stealth. Stealth is a nice benefit, but it is not, your class is not dependent on it as though you can't function without it. As I told, for the Sith Assassin and Jedi Shadow, you have, of the three force classes, force using melee classes, you have the most forcey attacks. You have shock, you have force lightning, there's Republic equivalents. You have discharge. These are all basically 10-meter range abilities, so they're melee, but they're a little bit more forgiving than your average melee ability. And instead of doing direct damage with like a lightsaber, you are doing damage with the force. The other classes do use the force, but in less cases. Primarily as a Jedi Shadow or a Sith Assassin, what you're going to be doing is you are going to be using your lightsaber. You'll be hitting him with your lightsaber, and then when you have shock up, you'll hit shock. You'll get procs to have shock up more frequently. You have this big AoE attack which slows and puts a debuff on damage. When you have a sufficient number of stacks, you will use Force Lightning, which does a pretty decent chunk of damage and also gives you self-healing. You can see I'm self-healing while I do that. You have stuns to stun the bad guys. You have pulls to pull them. You know, different CC abilities, basically. I just slowed him. I can debuff his accuracy with that. So that's kind of what it looks like. You're running around using your AoE debuffs, your lightsaber to do a pretty good chunk of damage, and then your force, whether it's a lightning or shock or that kind of thing in between. So that's pretty much what it looks like as a shadow tank, as an assassin tank. An assassin tank does very nice DPS for just being a straight tank. The highest DPS really of all the tanks. It's your damage mitigation comes mainly from your tankiness comes mainly from damage mitigation, as opposed to the Juggernaut tank, which is more you just take the beating. You can take the beating. So I have cooldowns. I have this cooldown, which increases my chance to dodge attacks, and then I have Force Shroud, which causes me to basically be immune to force attacks, to internal damage, stuff like that. And of course, there's combat stealth if you want to get away. Those are the kind of defenses that you have as a assassin tank. That's the kind of skills that you use. Not very much AoE. All your AoE comes from your AoE debuff, which slows and puts your damage debuff. Your discharge, which puts a debuff of what do you call accuracy. And these are targeted. You know you have to have an enemy targeted to use them. And then you have this AoE attack, which is not that great except it's AoE. So that's the combat style of a Jedi Shadow and a Sith Assassin. And all of the other DPS specs are very similar. You're using your lightsaber to basically proc force attacks. is the general rule of thumb. Now I'll show you a Juggernaut. The equivalent is, of course, the Jedi Guardian. It is a tank and DPS. Tank-wise, you have a very good amount of CC options. You're going to have your gap closer of a leap. The leap also builds your resources. You can push people, you can choke them and damage them while they're being choked. You have additional CCs such as backhand. I could not leap to him because he's in cover. You can't leap to people in cover. So you're going to be hitting with your lightsaber a lot. You can throw your lightsaber. You can you're basically using very basic attacks in addition to a couple of tanking abilities, such as you have Smash, which is an AoE attack, which puts a debuff on the bad guys, which causes this other ability, which is your top tier tanking ability, to strike multiple enemies. I'm actually going to die probably because this is planned slightly too high for me, but I wanted to show you some good fights. You have taunts, of course, in all of the tanks. I also have this. You see me health go up there. That's the defensive cooldown, which gives me 40% extra health for a certain amount of time before it runs out. I died. But that's the tank spec of the Juggernaut. It's really a lot of leaping in, using basic lightsaber attacks. Your force attacks are Force Scream, your choke, that kind of thing. It's fun to push NPCs, and in fact, it's fun to push player characters around too, even more so with the push. It thinks I'm moving for some reason, so it's not letting me heal up. I think I'm potentially having lag issues. In fact, I'm sure I'm having lag issues. Probably going to drop in a second here. This is very uncommon. Alright, I fixed it. So that's all there is to that. Again, not a whole lot. The big thing about the Juggernaut tank is a lot of control. You have this spammable AoE slow. You have an AoE mez, which only got one because there's only one dude there, but it's AoE. You have one stun, which is the choke. You have a second stun, which is the backhand. You know, you just have a lot of controlling abilities. And like I said, check out my health here. I'm going to pop my fake health. I have a maximum of like 11,000 health, now it's 14,000. This ability here is another defensive cooldown, which is going to cause me to heal when I take damage. You see I'm getting healed when the thing attacks me. I have a flat 40% damage reduction for a certain amount of time. So these are just the way, as a Juggernaut tank, you're going to survive. That's that. The middle tree for a Jug is kind of a quasi-melee, quasi-dot spec. The dots aren't that great. The melee's not that great. It's honestly not that fantastic as is. It's getting buffed in 2.0. I like it. It's fun. but as for damage, it's not really the best, although it's pretty decent PvE. This is a very, very strong spec. Very, 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 very strong. Smash. The Smash spec is basically huge AoE damage. I showed you what the Smash hits for. For example, let me find just a group of little trash mobs. I'll leap in. I'll smash them, which is my AoE. It's hitting for 1600 on these dudes. Okay, at least in this particular, the way that I have my skill points set up. I'm not really paying that close attention right now. But basically what you do in this spec is you have the ability to get Shockwave, which causes your smash to hit harder. 3000. So I just doubled how hard it's hitting. It hits very, very, very hard when you're actually fully geared. In terms of DPS, this is somewhat of a more, not boring, but simple spec than the Shadows. Like I said, you jump in, you hit your smash, you hit the ability, which I just hit, which is going to cause my smash to build up again. Then you get your second leap, you leap in, you smash again, and so on. It's basically using random attacks in between smashes while you're waiting for your next smash to come off cooldown. Although your random attacks are strong, you can use them strategically, and they cause your smash to have a shorter cooldown each time you use them. So that's how that goes. I will show you this spec lastly, the middle one, because it might be something you're into. It's a different, it's a significantly more kind of active, it's a significantly more active kind of melee spec than some of the other ones are, than the Smash. So basically what I'm going to do is leap in, and then you're using a bunch of these little attacks. You're hitting your channeled ability. Your other abilities can occasionally proc your channeled ability to reset. It did not that time. But as you can see, it's a lot more kind of involved than the Smash was. It's basically a lot of using all of your abilities, not just the ones in between. Not just the ones in between. Smash are useless. It's just you're constantly DPSing. You're not waiting for your big hit. So this is more of a really sustained DPS. The other one's significantly more bursty than. So that's that. For the Sith Juggernaut. Lastly, I will show you the Marauder, which is the Sentinel equivalent. Of all the melee DPS, of all the melee force users, the Marauder is the most fast-paced. If you really are just into fast twitch, kind of, you know, not so much mindless skill use, but, you know, fast twitch, this is the spec for you. Marauder, you're just going to see how kind of fast. It's similar to the Jug. It's a pure DPS variant of the Jug class, of the Warrior class. Juggernaut's the tanky one. Marauder is the DPS one, and so it shares similar mechanics like leap and stuff, but what you're going to see is just, it's going to just look significantly faster. It looks like I'm just doing just DPS left and right as I just constantly cast various abilities. It just looks faster. It has 3 trees. This is the same smash tree. It's shared with the Juggernaut. There's a jug. It's the same thing. This is a dot tree. You put a ton of little dots. This skill here, you activate it, and it makes your next 3 attacks of basically any kind put dots on the target. You put dots. This one is pure, just kind of melee. But this one in the middle gives you a base movement increase of 15%. It's basically designed to be very acrobatic, very fast-paced. And so you can see that, you know, it just involves a lot of stuff. And in fact, I'm going to pop a particular cooldown. You're going to see that this ability allows me to use attacks without a global cooldown for a period of time. It's just very fast-paced. Very, very fast-paced. You don't have the same kind of control abilities. You don't have the slow. You don't have the like stuns that a Juggernaut does. But what you do have is just fast-paced DPS, as I struggle very badly here, but it's significantly faster pace, just more DPS. And it's got pretty decent survivability. I'm almost dead, so I can, like, oh, they might kill me. What do I do? Well, I can vanish out for a few seconds to get away. I can leap back in and hit Undying Rage. I didn't hit it in time. But Undying Rage basically sacrifices 50% of your health to make you immortal for something like 4 or 5 seconds. I haven't actually played this class in a little while, so that's why I'm a little rusty. It's for 4 seconds. So you use it when you're real low. I have 10,000 health, so say I'm down to like 200 health. You hit Undying Rage, you lose half your health, so you're down to 100. Who cares? And you're immortal. For a pure DPS class, this Marauder class actually has a ton of defensive cooldowns. I used one which is that same bubble the Jug has. Here's Cloak of Pain, which reduces all damage taken by 20% and makes all damage taken bounce back at the attacker for a certain period of time. There's also Obfuscate, which will cause an enemy to basically have reduced accuracy. So, for example, I'm going to leap in and use Obfuscate on this dude, and you're going to see that he's going to, like, see how he's hitting me, but I'm not taking any damage? He has no accuracy because I use Obfuscate. And now, finally, I will pop Undying Rage, even though it's a stupid time. You'll see my health drop in half, but you'll see me basically taking very, very little damage from this monster. Let's see if I can survive without dying to him. So that's Marauder. It's really fast paced. And so fast paced, in fact, that because I haven't played it in a month or two, mainly because I've been working on some other stuff, I really enjoy the class. I just haven't had time. I'm not as good as I should be. So that's really what there is to the Marauder. You also get this really sweet speed boost, which you give to your whole party. So it's really great for PvP. So yeah, that's Marauder. So of the 3 Force classes for Melee, this is the one that's pure DPS, and this is the one that's honestly the best DPS, just straight DPS. All 3 of the trees are good for DPS. This is good for PvP, just gigantic AoE smashes. This is good for PvP because of the utility, the movement. This is great for PvE because of all the dots. Assassin has okay DPS, but very, very good tank tree because it's got very good survivability along with very good damage. But it's not as direct melee. Okay, and Juggernaut is honestly a little bit in between, but the damage from a tank Jug is pretty non-existent. It's really a lot more tanky and less DPS-y than the Assassin. If you're looking to get up in people's faces and hit them with lightsabers, Marauder or Jug, pretty much. If you're looking to do it with just a ton of DPS, Marauder. If you're looking to use your lightsaber a lot, but also use things like Force Lightning and Force powers on them, you're going to go for Assassin or Shadow. That's pretty much what it comes down to.